My daughter was 26 days old when my mother called. No congratulations, no how are you sleeping, just we're moving in tomorrow. She didn't ask, she informed. Your sister and Trevor need space, she added. You have the bigger house. I was still bleeding, still waking every 2 hours, still trying to remember who I was before the hospital bracelet. She ended the call with one sentence: "If you don't like it, you can leave." She didn't know the deed had already been transferred. Stay with me, because when they showed up at noon with suitcases and entitlement, someone was already sitting in my living room waiting for them. My name is Danielle Holleran. I'm 36, a hospice nurse, and 4 weeks before that phone call, I signed the mortgage on the only house I have ever owned. I bought it for one reason: to start over quietly, after losing my husband, after losing my daughter, after losing every version of family I thought was stable. The house wasn't extravagant: 3 bedrooms, deep windowsills, enough yard for sunlight and privacy. I closed on it with savings I had guarded for years. No cosigner, no assistance, no family money, just me. My mother had always treated space like something she owned: holiday dinners, wedding seating charts, who lived where, who owed whom. Control disguised as concern. So when she said they were moving in, I wasn't surprised, just tired. Trevor, my brother-in-law, had been handling Grandma's finances for a year. We were told she was declining, forgetting, confused. I had watched her at her 90th birthday, slumped in a wheelchair, heavily medicated, signing papers she couldn't read, and I had felt something wrong, but I didn't have proof, not yet. After I gave birth, I moved Grandma into my guest room quietly, without announcement, without asking permission, because I am a hospice nurse, and I know what over-medication looks like. The first night she slept in my guest room, I checked her pill box: 2 benzodiazepines, 1 anticholinergic, daily, scheduled, no taper plan, no documented agitation requiring that dosage. It wasn't dementia, it was sedation. I didn't confront my mother. I didn't accuse Trevor. I adjusted the dosages, safely, under medical supervision. 2 weeks later, my grandmother asked for tea, named every grandchild correctly, corrected my sister's middle name, remembered where she put the sugar bowl. She wasn't gone, she had been slowed. That's when I requested bank statements, as legal next of kin caregiver. The numbers were worse than I imagined: $412,000 transferred from her accounts over 12 months into an investment account managed by Trevor, then redistributed. Car payments, credit lines, business expansion, lifestyle maintenance. My mother called it asset optimization. The day she announced she was moving into my house, I had already met with an elder law attorney, revoked the power of attorney, filed notice of financial exploitation review, requested an immediate freeze on property sale attempts. She didn't know that. She thought postpartum exhaustion would make me compliant. She thought grief would make me soft. She thought motherhood would make me smaller. She forgot something simple: hospice nurses don't panic. We observe, we document, we wait. Noon arrived, SUV in the driveway, my sister carrying boxes, Trevor with a confident smile, my mother leading the charge. They walked through the front door without knocking, because that's how they always entered my life. And then they stopped, because my grandmother was sitting upright in the living room, clear-eyed, alert, waiting. My mother was the first to recover. Her smile snapped back into place like a mask. "Mother, you look better," she said too brightly. "I am better," my grandmother replied calmly. Her voice was steady, clear, not fogged, not slurred. Trevor's expression shifted just slightly. "You shouldn't be here," my mother said to me. "This isn't your decision." I didn't raise my voice. "It's not yours anymore." I walked to the coffee table and picked up a slim folder. Inside were 3 documents: revocation of power of attorney, filed, stamped, effective. Trevor stepped forward. You can't just... I already did. 2 weeks ago. Silence rolled across the room. My sister looked at Trevor. He looked at the folder. And for the first time, he wasn't smiling. You manipulated her, he said. I protected her, I replied evenly. My grandmother reached for her own purse, pulled out a copy of the revocation, signed in steady ink, dated, witnessed. Trevor, she said calmly, I remember signing things I didn't understand. I remember asking what year it was. I remember not knowing. The air shifted. The power dynamic cracked. You drugged me, she said simply. Not screaming, not theatrical, just truth. My mother flinched. We were managing symptoms. You were managing access, I corrected. I slid the bank statements across the table. $412,000 in 12 months. Transfers labeled reallocation, investment repositioning, liquidity adjustment. It all sounded professional until you looked at where the money landed. Car loan payoff, home renovation, business equipment, vacation deposits. My sister's hands started shaking. You said it was conservative growth, she whispered to Trevor. It was. It was not, I said calmly. It was extraction. That's when my mother tried the last tactic, tears. You're tearing this family apart. No, I'm separating theft from love. Pause. There's a difference. Trevor tried to regain control. This is a misunderstanding. Then you won't mind the investigation. He went still, because that word mattered. Investigation. I had already filed with Adult Protective Services. A case number existed, an investigator was assigned, and the property sale? Frozen. My grandmother's house was not being sold, not that week, not quietly, not at all. My mother looked around the room, for backup, for reinforcement, for the familiar hierarchy. She didn't find it, because my sister wasn't standing behind her anymore. She was standing beside the truth. And Trevor? Trevor had just realized his access was gone. But here's the part none of them anticipated. I wasn't stopping at freezing assets. Trevor looked at the folder, then at my grandmother, then at me. You're going to press charges, he said. It wasn't a question. It was realization. I didn't answer immediately, because the answer wasn't emotional. It was procedural. I already submitted documentation, I said calmly. Whether charges are filed isn't my decision. It's the state's. My mother's composure shattered. You would criminalize your own family? No, I replied quietly. You did that when you signed her name. No one argued that. The APS investigator arrived 2 days later, interviewed my grandmother alone, reviewed dosage logs, reviewed bank transfers, requested documentation from the financial institution Trevor used. It moved slower than television, but faster than denial. Trevor tried to frame it as a misunderstanding. He cited estate planning optimization. He referenced temporary liquidity. But the forged signatures were clear. The medication logs were time-stamped. The pattern was documented. He had miscalculated one thing. He assumed I would confront him emotionally. Instead, I escalated institutionally. 3 weeks later, a formal finding was issued. Substantiated financial exploitation, mandatory restitution review, professional conduct complaint filed. Trevor's investment license? Suspended pending inquiry. That was the moment his voice changed. Not angry, not defensive, smaller. My sister left him within a month, not because I demanded it, because trust evaporated. My mother didn't call for weeks. When she finally did, she sounded older. "You've destroyed everything." "No," I replied quietly. "You did that when you signed her name." The restitution was partial. The $412,000 didn't all return at once. Some was recovered, some restructured, some lost to penalties. But the house remained in my grandmother's name, clear, unencumbered. She moved permanently into my home, not as a dependent, as a matriarch. My daughter grew beside her. 3 generations under one roof. No sedation, no performance, no extraction. My mother visits sometimes, carefully, politely. She never says the word trivial again, and I never call her mom in my own house. They tried to claim my home. They tried to erase my grandmother. They thought postpartum exhaustion would make me compliant. They forgot something simple. Hospice nurses don't guess. We observe. We document. And when the time comes, we act. If someone ever tried to take from the vulnerable while calling it love, protect first, explain later, and never apologize for reading the label.